Just reiterating that earlier question of how to leave a client in a frame of mind that is open to exploring or playing with what the lesson's been about, how you encourage them to do that.
I had all sorts of profound things to say before. We live in a paradigm that has experts and people who depend on them. And the people who depend on them have the belief that they don't know things. So I think it's really important to address that, definitely implicitly, but sometimes explicitly, that what we're doing is not a situation where you've come to me so I can tell you what to do, or because I know better than you about what your body needs, but so that we can explore together. And so I need their input in noticing, not going away and practicing things, but noticing what makes a difference and when it makes a difference, and how that varies depending on what you're doing. And some people are better at gradually moving into that model than others.
I think it's hard to answer, probably a little bit different with everybody, but my usual, there is a usual, my usual response at the end of the lesson, if they've had a very distinct experience, and I know it's an experience, right? I know it's at that moment, it might linger for a certain time, to focus them in on what is it that they're actually experiencing at that time. So I'm talking about the end of the lesson, what's happening, and there they are, just like you had an experience at the end of that, right? There's this experience that's there. So it's like, then can you remember that? Could you recall that experience? If I feel that there's enough robustness in that experience, I'll move them into something else where they don't feel like that and ask them, can you find your way back? Can you recreate that for yourself? And notice I'm making a judgment call here. Is that experience robust enough that for them to follow the breadcrumbs back to how they were, and then follow the breadcrumbs to how they are? And then I encourage them, go looking for that experience in the activities that this is related to. Yeah. So that's a very usual way of working for me. Okay.
And I often do that as well. And sometimes I'll ask them if there's an image or a colour or a word or something really specific that they can hook on to that sensation in themselves. Or sometimes it's what's in the sensation, what's the new thing, I might try and kind of clarify what it is about that experience that they can come back to. So often that will be like the thing that I want them, but I will pretty much always send somebody away with something to play around with. And sometimes it's a little movement exploration, and sometimes it's practicing noticing, trying to develop some awareness. Sometimes it's really specific. If they've come in with a thing like when I'm at work, blah, 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 I'll go, okay, so when you're at work, or, see if any of this comes to you, or see if you think of what we've done today and you're sitting at work, could you, use what we've done today, or even nail it more specifically? Could you move your pelvis and see what's different about that? So it really depends how much self-awareness they have, so what they are already cued in to notice, what they've come with the question they've come to you with, and how you think that you can keep the lesson going beyond your room, which is really important. I think that's what you're asking. Yeah. Is that enough? Absolutely. Yeah, I've done that a few times in here. Go. So yeah, sometimes or yeah, just and to find not just, well, this is your habit and this is the new thing, but where's that? What are all the? That's a whole pathway, and can you find all the points along that pathway, or can you find a whole lot of? So it's not just this or this. Obviously, I'm thinking about particulars. It's not just this or this, but oh look, there's a whole lot of little places in the middle that we can play with. So yeah. But there's a lot of ways to do it. But I think the really important thing is that's, for me, is part of the lesson, is how you take that beyond my room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ATM doesn't seem to be a real big money spinner. How do you and your businesses try to create revenue from doing ATM classes?
Oh, yeah, I thought you had it. I thought you had it.
That is my major source of revenue. I hardly do any functional integration work, mostly because I don't follow Jenny's recommendations. I rather disarm myself and become legless, you know. So basically, I run workshops that are themed, and the kind of people that I do see now, I teach one-on-one ATM. I teach one-on-one ATM. And to follow up on your question, I record the ATM and they get to download the recording. Okay, so that's available. So that is the source of my income, because that's what I like doing. So that's what I make that's how I make my living. Yeah.
I think that's the critical thing, is actually making it relevant to what people care about. So just putting up a sign that says awareness through movement doesn't mean a lot to many people yet. But sleeping better, being comfortable at work, getting rid of stress, having a comfortable jaw, playing tennis better, dancing better, whatever, those are things that make sense to people. And we have a whole repertoire of tools and lessons and ideas that make sense to people, that we can offer them an experience that is useful, and people will pay for that.
So my theory is the only way to make good money is to have really big ATM classes, because then you can earn more than seeing people one-on-one. Have a whole, 20 people in your ATM class and run a few a week would be fabulous. I don't do that. I have one class a week and the numbers fluctuate. And what? Yeah, it's great. No, and I actually, because I've thought lots of times, look, really, I don't know that if I want to keep running this, because it ties me to a Wednesday. I've got to do all the preparation. But actually, there's something about teaching regular ATM classes that's not so much about income for me, but it's about refreshing. So each lesson that sometimes I, teach lessons that I know. Actually, even if I do that, there's something in the structure of an ATM lesson that will then flavour my FI stuff. So it's a way of keeping my FI a little bit fresher and not doing the, you can get caught in habits of anything, including the way you do this work. So I think just that discipline for me of having to front up each week and go, okay, another lesson. What are we going to do? What am I interested in? What are they interested in? So I don't do a lot of marketing or, anything like that. My practice no marketing. My practice tends to be people come for FI and then I suggest ATM classes to them. And most of the time I forget to suggest ATM classes, but that's the direction it goes for my practice, which is different from a lot of other people's practice. So, there's that balance between, are you doing it to make money and you hope you get enough? And there's other reasons to do it as well.
You want to do a chuck this time?
Just on that, building the bridge from FI to ATM, how do you explain the value and why they might want to do that?
So from FI to ATM, I think is a really easy bridge to build because it's the progression, if you like, for them is that they're doing it themselves. So I'm giving verbal instructions. They're actually creating the movements and the experience themselves. And some people don't want to do that. That's absolutely right. But I think that I don't know. I think it's pretty. I don't know what I say to them, but it's just seems that, and I guess I say it to some people and not to other people. So that might be, where it gets a little tangled. But it's a cheaper way of continuing with the work. That's one thing. It's cheaper to do ATM than, it's cheaper to do group work than one-on-one. And it's a way of kind of continuing it, keeping it going without having to keep on coming in for individual sessions. I often suggest that it's a progression, that and that then they can take whatever happens in an ATM class and play with that. And I mean, there's also something really lovely about being in a group when people are ready for it. That social aspect of it is really, fantastic. So, I don't know.
Okay.
People periodically ask me, which would be better, ATM or FI? And without giving advice, I often would just give examples of different clients that I work with, that for some, they really like the sort of regular maintenance and coming along each week and being part of the group, discovering things they can do to take care of themselves. Other people like to have a combination, that every now and again they'll come for an individual kind of personalised session just to deal with something specific. Or some people will start with the FI because they've got a particular concern or an injury or an issue that it's good to get a sense of what's possible for them, and then they might go to classes. Or some people just appear on my doorstep when something hurts. I might not see them for months or years at a time, and they come back. So it's a case of just offering choices, I think.
I think so.
Mm.
I had something to say and I forgot. When I do remember, I say, well, you know, you can join a class, but really the answer to that is, it depends what kind of emotional space I'm in. That's really what makes the clincher, right? And what I've noticed in the last couple of years is the nature of the way I practice the method is changing. And so even for those individuals that do come exclusively for, you know, hands-on work, I still, as I said up in that corner, I deliver the lesson as if it was an ATM lesson. I talk to them, I interact with them, and what I say to them is not always about the movement. Like, you know, the play on words that I was giving you in that ATM. Can you be conscious of how you're conscious about your movement? So I don't necessarily modify the message. I tell them what my interest is in the work, and if they get curious enough, they come and they go to classes, and if they're not, then they don't. So is that a source of, yes, I'm squirming. So yes, it's a source of development. But to answer your question honestly, there's something that I'm still working on for that process to happen. I think that transition from FI to ATM is a tricky transition, because if the person's come there and their problem is gone, the MS person, problem's gone, well, what do I need more stuff for? But that requires me to have the courage to say to them, but this method is more than that. And that requires courage, because why? Because I have to get over my barrier of thinking that I'm trying to convince somebody into something. Where does that come from? It comes right from the day I started the Feldenkrais training and I knew it was from California. I was suspicious. Is this Californian stuff? And that's still kind of there. So part of me, part of who Zoran Kovic is this, who am I to tell you? You make your choice. Yeah. So what's that balance that I need to find in myself to say, look, there's something more to this method and still you can have your choice. That's the balance. So that's out of all honesty. Yeah. So sometimes the difficulty is in me, not necessarily the client. Matter of fact, most of the time the difficulty is in me. No, what was that thing you wanted to say before? No,
The thing I was going to say before was about the cargo pants.
Oh yeah, the cargo pants. Yeah.
That-
I hate cargo pants.
Yeah. They're so 70s.
Yeah, I know.
No, I was just playing with the metaphor and the idea that for me, often it's more that the client is the one that's got the cargo pants, and the adventure is exploring, you know, what they've got, what they've brought. So
What's got there?
yeah,
Hey, what's got there?
yeah.
Well, that's nice.
So
That's nice.
that, you know, I've said to some of you in the past few days, more and more I'm getting clear that it's not so much about what I know, but what I can help you discover and draw out of your experience, and you know, the connections that you make in life. So
And Linda, with your FI, when I said to you, I really don't know about wielding a pick. I know nothing about wielding a pick, but swimming, I can share some of my experience with you about swimming, and suddenly there's a resonance between you got something, I got something, and then here we are in this soup going, oh yeah. So I think It's nice.
It might be a tangent, but I know nothing about wielding a pick. I know nothing about playing a viola, but I have a client who's a really good viola player. I know nothing about playing golf, but I help lots of people with their golf. So it's finding
That's like
the
standing thing this morning, yeah? Yeah, you know lots about standing.
I do.
Sorry,
No, that's fine. So it's finding observing how they do it, or finding the commonality between, that happens in golf and any other time, or what is it in that function, in that state, when you're doing that thing, what is it that we can find that I do know something about, that I can help you with. So.
Swimming was far more interesting.
Yeah.
And if I think I do know something about swimming or wielding a pick or playing a viola, I have to be mighty careful that I don't assume that they do it the same way I do. I still have to pay attention to how do they do whatever their skill or movement or task is.
Yeah. I want to go back to the workshop thing. So when you conduct a workshop, how do you keep the people that come to the workshop, particularly if they're first timers, engaged so that they will come back, or you're offering something else between workshops? That whole sort of scenario.
Many of our colleagues actually run a monthly workshop program, and for some people coming, on the third Saturday or whatever it is their engagement with the method. They can kind of cope with that sort of thing, and if they're not there 1 month, well, it's a pity, but that's their engagement. Other people will run a workshop and by the way, if you would like more, my weekly classes are at this time. There are all kinds of packages you can kind of put together, at least in your own head. I mean, we talked about this, what shape do you want your business to be? And that's one of the kind of things of what pattern of offering do you want to make that might match with the availability of your group.
Yeah. I think that's what I said before. It's regular, it's once a month. Is it the same people coming all the time? No, they vary. But there's a few groupies that like to come because they just like it. Doesn't matter what I present. But once again, it comes back to me. I'm the one that can't bear to present the same topic twice. So I keep changing it. And Joey goes, why do you do that? Can't you just sell it again? I go, no, it's not interesting. So there is something about me staying juicy and interested, and then like I did with you in this second 2 weeks, that was interesting. Taking that flow and then putting in and then refining it. So, maybe there should be a little bit of room in there to do that with public workshops. Yeah.
So I mean, for me, it's why you're running a workshop. Is it to get people to come to your practice, or is it a way of presenting the work in a different format that you can kind of gather up a whole theme that you can't necessarily do in an ATM class, that makes it gives it more depth? So you're offering it as an add-on to what you normally do? Is it a way of just sparking up your own, way of studying the work, or, So I run workshops with Ruth, and we do them maybe 3, maybe 4, I don't know, depends how much energy we have during the year. We changed the topics. We just did a repeat workshop. Yeah. So we had a waiting list for a workshop, and we went, oh, we could just run exactly the same workshop without all that preparation. We just turn up and do the same workshop. It was very exciting. And yeah, so we had again another full workshop on, you know, with exactly the same material. But that's the first time we've done that. What's the what? The topic? Walking. We've done lots of walking workshops with a slightly different theme each time. But yeah, we went, well, we don't need to have a different theme. It can just be the same ATM, same messages. And actually it just went so smoothly. It was really, Zora and I can highly recommend it. I mean, we knew the timing better. We knew how to blend between one thing and the next thing a bit better. So, you know, there's something about repetition and practice that is very useful. And we do. So at the end of the workshop, we do say, okay, this is Ruth's practice, blah, blah, blah. This is my practice. Come and see us. And sometimes we might get a new person for a class. Sometimes it's just the planting of a seed, and then they'll go and find somebody closer to them. Sometimes nothing happens, and then they pop up again at the next workshop. So it's a different way of engaging with the material for people, and sometimes it just really works. We'll just do a day or half a day, and that's, you know.
No, I don't have to apologise. So, I just want to follow up on you. So, in Sydney, I've set up a studio which I share with another practitioner and anybody else who wants to hire the place. So there's always material on the table that people can collect to go to an ATM class or have an FI, know what's going on and around the place. So they don't necessarily come back to my workshop, but they could go to another person's workshop or end up in Christine Heberlein's ATM classes, which she runs on a weekly basis. So they kind of channel through, and I like that. I like sharing that kind of load around.
Yeah, you've heard me say many times, we do things better together. And if it takes time to build up a mailing list and a following, but if you were to collaborate with someone on the other side of town, for example, and run your workshop in your place this month, and then run it in their place next month, and then the next month they come and run their workshop in your place, you've got a little less preparation, a little more reward for the investment, and, you know, interest and diversity for different groups of people. That there are lots of ways of kind of getting the benefits of cooperation. I mean, I'm in the fortunate position now because I've got a national mailing list that if I choose, I can decide to go and run a workshop pretty much wherever I like. So if it suits me to pop up to Cairns for the weekend, I've got a following up there now. Now, there's not much I can offer them. The local people kind of come and go up there, but there's interest. And so some of the workshops that I have prepared could be run, you know, up my neck of the woods or over the other side of town or anywhere. So chat to each other. I mean, you've got colleagues all across the country. What fun.
Way more. Nothing very much.
Is there a pattern to the social demographics of your customers?
They range in income from zero to quite a lot.
I never ask.
Can you clarify the question? The social demographics, like who comes, how old they are, how much money they have, all of that stuff. I think I think you end up having the group that you make connection with easily. So so in my ATM class, it's mostly older women, you know, sort of 50, 60, 70s. And I think part of the reason that happens is that then as a group, they feel really comfortable together. But also that's, I don't know, it works for me. And in my FI practice, it's anybody, you know, probably more older than younger, but then I have, you know, a 5-year-old, a couple of 15-year-olds, you know, some in their 20s, and then sort of a big bunch of a bit older, because that's often when more problems arise and the usual solutions don't work so well and they're looking for other things. They're ready to explore a bit further.
You can certainly identify gender groups, mostly females.
Yeah, but I do have, you know, at one stage I reckon I had about 50-50.
50-50.
I don't know what was happening, but I had a lot of, yeah, and it fluctuates, and I'm getting, and sometimes what happens is I get, like at the moment, my builder started coming and to improve his golf game, and then all his mates started coming because his golf improved. And they're going, hang on, how are we gonna? So sometimes, you know, you have a run on people that word of mouth. Sometimes somebody is really good at telling people about what they're doing, and you suddenly get a whole lot of people from that. And other times you go, oh, I did such a good job with that person. They're going to tell all their friends. I'm going, nothing. So word of mouth is really tricky, but it's probably, you know, the best way of growing your practice. Yeah.
Manja. Thank you very much.
Thank you.